The air tasted of ash and sorrow. Anna McCrae ran barefoot through the yard, skirts dragging in the dirt, her hands raw from beating against the locked barn door. Smoke curled out from the eaves, gray and mean against a fading afternoon. She coughed hard, the sound breaking apart like the roof beams that crackled above her children's cries. "Ellie! Tom!" she shouted. Her throat burned, but she hit the door again, her palm stinging. "Mama's here, baby, answer me." From inside came a muffled sob, then a tiny voice. "Mama, it's hot." Her knees nearly buckled. She yanked on the latch till splinters lodged beneath her skin, but the iron brace held fast. Behind her, laughter echoed from the porch of the ranch house. 3 men lounged there, hats low, bottles in hand. One spat into the dust, the dark stain glinting in the weak sun. The leader, Jed Riker, leaned against a post with a cigar clamped between his teeth. "Now don't wear yourself out, widow," he drawled. "You signed the deed. We'll open the door. Fair trade, ain't it?" Anna spun toward him, face streaked with soot. "You can't do this," she gasped. "They're just children." "World don't care much about children," Riker said, flicking ash into the wind. "World cares about debts. Your husband owed. He's dead. That makes it your problem." A gust of wind whipped her hair loose, scattering across her face like torn cloth. She steadied herself, shaking her head. "My husband paid every man what was due. You're a liar." Riker's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Then maybe the smoke will chase the truth out." He turned, motioned to his men. One tossed a handful of straw toward the open flame at the barn's base. The heat rose instantly, searing Anna's face. She lunged forward, but the taller man, Dane, Riker's hired hand, caught her by the shoulders and shoved her down into the dirt. The world went sideways, the taste of grit filling her mouth. She clawed back up, wild-eyed. "Please," she screamed, her voice cracking like the wood. "Please, Al." No words came after that. Her throat closed around the smoke and the sound of her daughter sobbing. Riker tipped his hat lazily. "You've got till the flames hit the loft. After that, there ain't much to save." He sauntered away, his boots crunching over the dry earth, leaving her shaking before the barn. Anna pressed her forehead to the door. Inside, Tom's voice rose again, horse-frightened. "Mama, the boards are hot." Her tears streaked dark paths through the soot. "Hold on, my loves. Just hold on." She turned, scanning the horizon. The road stretched wide and empty, pale under the low sun. Not a soul in sight, not a sound but wind and fire, and the cruel laughter fading toward the porch. And then, faint and far, the dull rhythm of hooves. She blinked hard through the smoke. A rider was coming up from the south, dust pluming behind him, a dark shape cut against the heat shimmer, coat flapping, hat brim low. Anna stumbled forward, waving her arms. "Help! Please help me!" The horse slowed, the rider's silhouette growing clear, broad shoulders, weathered face, a rifle slung behind him. When he reached the gate, she could finally see his eyes, gray, distant, the kind of eyes that had seen too much war. "What's happening?" he barked. "They locked my children inside," she cried, pointing to the barn. "They'll die if you don't, please." The man's jaw tightened. He looked toward the porch where Riker's men had begun to notice him. 3 of them, rifles resting easy on their hips. "Who are they?" he asked. "Thieves," she said, trembling. "They came for the land, my husband's land." He hesitated only a second, scanning the scene like a soldier reading a battlefield. Then he swung down from the saddle, voice low but firm. "Name's Luke Calder. Get back." Anna stumbled aside. The heat was unbearable now. The barn's boards glowed orange at the seams. Luke pulled his rifle free, fired a shot into the padlock. The metal sparked but held. From the porch, a shout. "Hey? Stranger, you best mind your own business." Luke ignored it. He turned to his horse, a tall, scarred chestnut, and murmured something low. Then, in one motion, he mounted up again, dug his heels in, and charged. The horse thundered across the yard. Anna's heart hammered in rhythm with the hooves. Luke lowered his shoulder, bracing. The impact split the air, a splintering crash of wood and smoke. The barn door burst inward, flames curling up the beams like claws. Heat swallowed everything. Luke leapt from the saddle into a haze of smoke and hay dust. The air inside was thick and cruel, every breath a scrape. Somewhere in the choking dark, a child whimpered. "Tom!" he shouted. "Ellie, over here!" came a faint cry. He moved toward the sound, covering his mouth with his sleeve. The smoke was a living thing, curling, biting, pressing down. Through the haze, he saw two small figures huddled behind a feed barrel. He scooped the girl first, then reached for the boy. "Stay close. Don't look at the fire." Outside, Anna was still at the doorway, calling their names, her voice raw. Luke stumbled to the doorway with both children clinging to him. The cool air hit like water. Anna caught Ellie into her arms, sobbing. Tom coughed hard, clinging to her skirt. "You got him," Anna breathed, barely able to speak. God bless you." A sharp voice cut through the chaos. "That's enough, hero." Riker stood in the yard now, rifle raised. Behind him, his two men flanked the corral. Luke shifted his stance, the barn fire roaring at his back. "You're the one who lit it?" Riker smirked, told the lady she could trade her land for her brats. Guess she'd picked wrong. Anna's arms tightened around her daughter. "You'll hang for this," she said, trembling but defiant. Riker laughed. "Lady, the nearest law's 50 miles east. Out here, I'm the rope of the rule." Luke's gray eyes hardened. His voice dropped to a calm that made the world quiet. "Then I guess the rule's about to change." The standoff stretched thin. Sparks drifted between them like fireflies. Dane shifted his rifle. "Boss, maybe we—" "Shut it!" Riker snapped. Luke stepped forward. "You've got one chance to ride out." Riker's grin faltered. "Or what?" Luke raised his rifle just enough. "Or you see if hell's hot as this barn." Silence. Only the crackle of burning wood. Then Riker moved. The gunshot came quick, echoing off the hills. Anna screamed, dropping low with the children. Luke's hat flew from his head, a puff of dust rising where the bullet struck the ground. He fired back. The sound split the air, scattering crows from the fence post. Riker dug behind the trough, cursing. Luke reloaded fast, movement sharp and sure. He fired again, once, twice, forcing the men to scatter. One horse bolted, reins trailing. Anna pulled the children toward the well, crouching behind its stone wall. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might break her ribs. When the smoke cleared a little, she saw Luke crouch beside his horse, returning fire with measured patience. He moved like someone who'd lived through battle before. The gunfire faded, replaced by the crack and pop of burning wood. Riker's men, realizing their advantage was gone, mounted up and galloped toward the road. Riker stayed, clutching his arm where a bullet had grazed him. He spat into the dirt. "Ain't over," called her. "You just bought yourself a debt worse than hers." He turned his horse and rode hard after his men, disappearing into the glare. Luke stood still, rifle lowered. The barn groaned behind him. The roof sagged, then collapsed inward with roar sparks. Anna hurried to him. "You're hurt," she said, reaching for his sleeve. He shook his head. "Just smoke and noise." She stared at the ruins of the barn, at the charred boards that had almost become her children's grave. Then she looked back at him, her voice trembling. "I don't even know why you stopped." Luke watched the empty road where Riker had vanished. "Didn't plan to," he said quietly. "But some things don't sit right if you ride past." By evening, the fire was down to embers. The smell of wet ash hung heavy, and the sky turned pale violet as the sun slipped behind the ridge. Anna sat on the porch steps with Ellie asleep against her shoulder and Tom wrapped in a blanket beside her. Luke worked near the well, washing the smoke from his hands, movement slow but precise. "You're a long way from anywhere," he said finally. Anna looked up. "This ranch was my husband's dream. He died 2 winters ago. Fever took him. I tried to keep it going for the children's sake." Luke nodded, glancing at the scorched barn. "That man, Riker, he'll be back." She swallowed hard. "Then I'll be ready." He studied her, this thin, soot-streaked woman who'd faced down armed men without yielding. "You can't hold ground alone, not out here." Her gaze didn't waver. I can't leave either. This is all we have. For a while, only the creak of the windmill broke the silence. Then Luke said, I'll stay till morning. Make sure they don't return tonight. Anna's eyes softened. Thank you. He nodded once, as if uneasy with gratitude. You should rest. She looked at him. This stranger who'd ridden out of the horizon and shattered her nightmare like a thunderclap. You saved my children. I won't forget that. Luke said nothing, just turned toward the fading firelight. The twilight caught the edge of his face. Hard lines carved by loss, not anger. Inside, the children stirred. Anna carried them to what remained of the house. When she came back out, Luke was standing near the corral, staring west. You got family? She asked softly. Not anymore, he replied. The words hung in the cooling air, final as a gunshot. A coyote howled from the hills, thin and lonely. Anna drew her shawl close. They called this land Hope Creek, she murmured. My husband named it that. Luke's gaze stayed on the horizon. Then it's worth fighting for. He turned toward the barn's ashes, the faint red glow painting his boots. Get the little one safe inside, Mrs. McCrae. Come dawn, you'll need strength. She hesitated, then nodded. Good night, Mr. Calder. Luke's fine, he said. Good night, Luke. As she walked away, he remained in the yard, listening to the low hum of wind across the open plain. Somewhere out there, Riker was nursing his wound and his anger. Luke knew the kind of man who didn't forget humiliation. He checked the rifle, loaded the last 2 cartridges, and sat beneath the water trough, his horse beside him. The stars came out sharp and cold. Tomorrow, trouble would ride again. But for tonight, the widow and her children slept. And for the first time in a long while, Luke Calder didn't feel like a ghost passing through. He felt, if only for this breath, as though he'd arrived somewhere that needed him. The night did not rest easy. Anna woke to the sound of horses far off. Hoofbeats muffled by distance, but steady enough to rattle the quiet. She rose from her cot, every muscle still taut from the fire's memory, and stepped outside. The wind had shifted east, carrying the faint echo of laughter. Luke was already saddled, rifle in hand. They're coming back, he said, voice low. How far? Half a mile. Maybe less. Riker doesn't sleep off shame easy. Anna's pulse quickened. Inside the house, Tom stirred. What do we do? She whispered. Luke swung into the saddle, jaw set. We don't stay to find out. Pack what you can for the young uns. We ride west till daylight. Her hands shook as she gathered bread, a water flask, and the deed papers from her husband's chest. Ellie clung to her skirt, wide-eyed but silent. By the time the hoofbeats drew near, Luke had the wagon ready. Stay low, he ordered. They rolled out under the thin light of the moon, the wheels bumping through dry ruts. Behind them, smoke rose again. Riker's men were burning what was left of the barn shell, likely to taunt or track them by firelight. Anna held Ellie close as Tom peered out the back. Mama, they're following. Luke snapped the reins. Then hold tight. The wagon jolted hard over the rocks, throwing sparks from the iron rims. The horses foamed at the bit, breath loud in the still air. Bullets whined past them, striking dust from the road. Down! Luke shouted. Anna covered the children, her heart hammering so loud she could barely hear the gunfire. Then, as suddenly as it began, silence fell again. The pursuers slowed, unwilling to follow into the canyon ahead. Luke pulled the horses to a halt near a narrow ravine, half shrouded in mesquite and sagebrush. We'll hide here till dawn. They unhitched the wagon and covered it with branches. The children huddled close beside Anna, trembling. Luke stood watch from ridge, his outline black against the starlit sky. When he finally came down, his face was gray with exhaustion. He tore a strip from his sleeve to wipe his temple. Anna saw the blood there, dark against the skin. You're hurt, she whispered. It'll keep, he said. But when he tried to lift his rifle, his arm faltered. Without a word, Anna took his hand and guided him to sit by the fire's dying glow. Let me see. He hesitated, but her tone allowed no argument. She cleaned the wound with water in the edge of her torn apron, the smell of smoke and iron sharp in the cool air. Luke grimaced but didn't flinch. "You done this before?" "Fever took my husband," she said quietly. "Not bullets, but pain's pain." He nodded, eyes on the horizon. "Riker will keep after you till he gets what he wants. Man like that don't let go easy." Anna tied the bandage firm. "Then neither will I." A long silence followed. Somewhere above, a nighthawk cried out. Luke looked at her. This woman with ash still in her hair and fire in her eyes, and said, "You're braver than most soldiers I knew." She gave a tired, thin smile. "I'm a mother, that's all." Dawn bled pale over the hills. The children were still asleep, wrapped in blankets near the wagon, when Luke roused Anna with a quiet shake of his head. "They found the tracks," he said. "Riker's scouts will be here before long." She stood quickly, brushing dust from her skirt. "Then we can't stay." He looked toward the canyon mouth where sunlight struck the rocks. "No, but I know a way that'll buy us hours. Maybe enough to turn it back on them." They broke camp in minutes. Luke led the horses by hand, careful not to leave fresh prints in the open sand. They climbed the narrow ridge to a dry creek bed cut deep into the earth. As they moved, the land came alive, the buzz of locusts, the crunch of gravel, the whisper of wind through sage. Every sound felt like warning. By mid-morning, the sun had turned harsh. The children walked now, weary but quiet. Luke's arm throbbed beneath the bandage. Anna caught him steady once when his step faltered. "You should rest," she said. He shook his head. "No time. They'll be close." They reached a place where the canyon widened, a split in the land like an open wound. Luke stopped, studying the ground. "We'll set a trail fire behind us. Slow them down." Anna hesitated. "Another fire?" "This one saves, not kills." He used his flint to spark dry brush. The flames crawled up fast, the wind driving smoke east. Within moments, a wall of gray filled the canyon. Anna guided the children up a rocky path to higher ground. When she looked back, the fire glowed faintly below, swallowing their trail. For a time, they walked in silence. Then Tom asked, "Mr. Calder, why does that man hate us so much?" Luke glanced down. "Because your mama stood up to him. Men like Riker don't forgive that." Anna said softly, "And because your father once turned him in for stealing cattle. He swore he'd come back for revenge. I thought he'd forgotten." Luke's expression darkened. Men like him remember everything that burns their pride. By noon, they found shelter beneath a cluster of cottonwoods near a shallow pool of water left by the last rain. Luke checked the perimeter, scanning the distant ridge through the rifle sight. "They'll come this way by evening," he muttered. "But maybe we can greet them first." Anna frowned. "You mean fight?" He didn't answer, just began to gather stones into a half circle, a small barricade. "Luke," she said, stepping closer, "you can't keep doing this alone." He paused, meeting her eyes. "I'm not doing it for me." "Then why?" His jaw tightened. "Because I once stood by and watched worse things happen. Because I told myself it wasn't my fight. I swore I'd never interfere again." Anna studied him, the weariness in his stance, the old guilt shadowing his words. "Then maybe this is how you start over," she said. He looked at her for a long moment, something unspoken flickering behind his eyes. Then he turned back to the rifle. "Maybe." By dusk, the canyon was painted gold and red, the air heavy with dust and heat. Luke crouched behind the barricade, rifle steady, eyes fixed on the trail below. Anna kept the children hidden behind a rock ledge, her hands trembling though she forced her face calm. The first sound came like thunder, the distant roll of hooves. 3 riders appeared on the ridge, dark against the fading light. Luke whispered, "Stay quiet till I fire." The riders dismounted near the smoke-blackened path. One called out, "Riker said they're near. Search the ridge." Luke waited till the nearest rider stepped forward, then fired once. The man's rifle flew from his grip, a shout echoing through the canyon. The others dove for cover. Anna covered the children's ears as gunfire cracked through the dusk. The sound bounced off the stone walls, fierce and echoing. Luke shifted position, reloading with measured calm. He fired again, and one of the outlaws fell hard, clutching his shoulder. The last man turned his horse to flee, but Luke called out, "Drop your gun!" The man froze, glanced once toward the ridge, then did as told. Luke climbed down slowly, rifle still ready. "Where's Riker?" he demanded. "Camped at the old mill," the outlaw stammered. "Said he'll burn the house next. Make her sign it in ashes." Luke's expression hardened. "You tell him he'll be the one turning to ash next time he rides." The man swallowed hard. You ain't law." Luke's eyes stayed cold. "Maybe not, but I'm here." He motioned for the man to go. The outlaw mounted and rode off fast, thus swallowing him whole. When Luke turned back, Anna was already on her feet. "He's coming for the house?" she asked. He nodded. "Before dawn." She pressed a hand to her mouth, her voice breaking. "There's nothing left to burn but the roof and our memories. Then we'll end it before he gets a chance." The children watched from the rocks, wide-eyed. Tom whispered, "Mom, are we going home?" Anna knelt, smoothing his hair. "Yes, sweetheart. But this time, we're not running." Luke checked his rifle, rewrapped his bandage. "We'll move when the moon's high," he said. "If we strike before he expects, we can catch him flat-footed." Anna hesitated. "You don't owe us this fight." He looked at her, dust streaking his face, eyes hard but human. "You're right, but I owe myself something I can live with." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Anna nodded. "Then we ride together." They packed in silence, the night thickening around them. When the moon rose white and full, they led the horses out of canyon. The wind had quieted, the air cool and tense. Luke rode ahead, every sense alert. Anna followed the children close, her fear sharpened into resolve. The land stretched endless and dark, the horizon flickering faintly with firelight. Riker's camp. Anna looked once at Luke's back, straight and unyielding in the moon's glow, and whispered to herself, "Let this be the last night he takes anything from us." Luke heard the words but said nothing. He only reached down, touched the rifle stock, and urged the horse faster. Behind them, the wind carried the faint echo of coyotes and the promise of reckoning. They rode in silence till the horizon burned faint with firelight. The ruins of Anna's homestead stood black against the plains, a husk of memory waiting for reckoning. The barn's charred skeleton leaned against the night, like an old wound that refused to heal. Luke halted his horse at the ridge. The wind pressed against his coat, carrying the faint sound of men below, drunken laughter, clanging metal, the crackle of fresh fire. Riker's camp. He turned to Anna. "You sure you're ready for this?" She nodded, voice steady though her hands gripped the reins tight. He took everything that had a name. "It's time he learns mine still matters." Luke studied her face, soot streaked, eyes like cold fire. "Stay by the creek till I give word. If I don't come back—" "You will," she said, cutting him off. "You've come this far." He gave a single nod, then checked his rifle, tightening the bandage around his arm. The children waited behind the ridge with the horses, watching silently. Ellie clutched a locket to her chest. Luke moved downhill, his boots sinking into the ash-soft soil. The moon hung pale, lighting the path between the blackened house and the flickering campfire beyond. 3 men sat there, rifles propped beside them. Riker stood apart, hat low, pouring whiskey into a tin cup. "Keep your eyes open," one of his men muttered. "Calder's a ghost, Riker. You seen what he did at the canyon." Riker spat into the dirt. "Ghost or not, he bleeds the same." Luke stepped into the open, rifle leveled. "Then let's find out." The camp went still. Riker's head lifted slowly, eyes narrowing beneath the brim. "You again." Luke's voice was calm, even. "You got something that ain't yours. Her land, her peace, her life." Riker's grin was slow and cruel. "And what are you to her, Calder? Savior? Saint?" He laughed. "You're just another fool playing hero where there ain't any left." Luke fired first. The shot split the quiet clean in half. Riker dug behind a crate, shouting orders. Bullets tore through the night, splintering fence posts, striking sparks off stone. Anna heard the gunfire from the ridge. She rose halfway, heart pounding. "Luke!" Tom grabbed her sleeve. Mama, don't. But she was already moving. Down in the yard, smoke coiled to the dust as Luke reloaded fast. One of Riker's men charged from the flank. Luke dropped him with a single shot, then ducked behind a trough. Another bullet grazed his shoulder, spinning him half around. He gritted his teeth, breath sharp. Calder. Riker's voice came through the smoke. You can't say what's already burned. Luke leaned against the trough, pain throbbing, the smell of gunpowder thick around him. He saw the house behind Riker, the doorway where children once played, now only soot and shadow. He lifted his rifle again. Maybe not, he murmured, but I can make sure it don't happen again. Anna peered at the edge of the yard, shotgun raised. The flicker of fire caught her face, fierce, unflinching. Riker turned, shock flashing in his eyes. You! Anna fired. The blast threw him backward, his gun spinning into the dirt. He fell hard, clutching his chest, eyes wide with disbelief. For a moment, only wind moved. The flames behind him snapped and hissed. Luke staggered forward, rifle still ready, until he stood over Riker. The man's breath rattled in his throat, his words broken. You don't get to win. Anna stared down at him, voice low. I wasn't trying to. I was just done losing. Riker's hand twitched once more, reaching for dirt, then stilled. Luke knelt beside him, closing the outlaw's eyes with one gloved hand. It's finished, he said quietly. Anna exhaled a long, shuddering breath. The fire crackled behind them, soft as a sigh. From the ridge, the children watched as dawn began to press against the horizon. The sky turned pale, washing the smoke in silver. Luke turned toward the burned house. The walls creaked in the morning wind. What now? He asked softly. Anna looked around at the ruin. We start again. Here. Luke studied her, the set of her jaw, the way her eyes held no fear now, only resolve. He nodded once. Then we'll build what they tried to take. The children ran down the hill to her, their small arms wrapping tight around her waist. Anna bent, holding them close, tears cutting clean lines through the soot on her cheeks. Luke looked away, giving her the moment, though something in his chest tightened. Not pain, but the kind of ache that comes when something finally ends. He reloaded the rifle one last time and walked toward the well, checking for stragglers, but there were none, only silence, honest and deep. By noon, the last of the fire had died. Smoke curled from the barn's black beams, thin and harmless now. Luke helped Anna gather what could be saved. A bent horseshoe, a charred family Bible, a few tools half buried in the ash. Tom and Ellie filled buckets from the creek, washing soot from the stones. The air smelled of wet earth and memory. Luke found Anna kneeling beside the old porch steps, brushing ash from something buried beneath. She lifted it slowly, a metal locket, dented but intact. Henry gave me this, she said softly. Said it'd keep the worst of the world out. Luke studied her face. Looks like it did. She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. Maybe it took you instead. He looked away, uneasy with the weight of her words. Don't put that on me. I just happened by. She shook her head. No one just happens by in times like these. For a moment, they stood silent, the wind brushing to the charred posts. When the children ran up with a tin cup of water, Luke knelt beside them. You both did good last night, he said. You kept quiet, stayed strong. Tom grinned faintly. Mama says we can help build again. That's so. Luke asked. Anna nodded. There's good soil beyond the well. If I can borrow your back for a few days, we could start with a fence. Luke hesitated, then smiled. A few days. Maybe. He helped her drag fallen timber toward the new plot. They worked in rhythm, quiet, efficient. The sound of hammering echoed across the empty land like heartbeat against silence. When the sun dropped low again, they sat by what remained of the barn, a small fire flickering between them. Anna stirred the coals with a stick. You never told me why you left the army, she said softly. Luke leaned back against the post. Lost too many men to orders that didn't make sense. Came home to nothing worth saluting. You found something now? He looked at her, really looked. Maybe, but ain't mine to keep. She met his gaze, steady. Maybe it ain't about keeping. Maybe it's about staying long enough to matter. He didn't answer. The firelight painted her face in warm tones against the deepening blue. The children slept nearby, curled together under a blanket. After a long silence, Luke said quietly, "You'll need help come planting season." Anna smiled. "So you'll be here then?" He stared into the fire. "We'll see where the trail leads." But she heard what he didn't say, that the trail had already found its end. When dawn came again, Luke saddled his horse. The land around them was quiet, washed clean by the night breeze. Anna stood by the fence, hands clasped around the locket. Tom and Ellie waved from the porch. Luke adjusted the saddle strap, then turned to her. "You sure you'll be all right?" She smiled faintly. "You already made sure of that." He nodded once, then swung into saddle. For a moment, neither moved. Two souls caught between what was gone and what might yet begin. Then Luke tipped his hat. "Keep the well covered. Coyotes will nose around soon." "I'll manage," she said. "I know." He turned the horse toward the open plains. The morning light stretched long across the land, touching the burn posts, the new fence, the faint outline of hope where ruin used to stand. Anna watched him go until he became a dark figure against the horizon. Tom tugged her sleeve. "Is he coming back?" She looked down at her son, her voice soft. "Maybe not today, but good men don't really leave. They just ride far enough to be missed." She lifted her eyes once more to the plain, where the wind whispered through the sage and the land seemed to breathe again. And somewhere beyond that wide horizon, Luke Calder rode on, a quiet man carrying the weight of what he'd saved and what saving had cost him. The land behind him held smoke and sorrow, but also something new. The sound of hammers, the laughter of children, and a woman who no longer begged, because she'd learned how to stand.